Mr. Shamus Dowler. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm glad to have you here.
I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, it's podcast time.
I love podcast time.
Yeah. For those of you who don't see the video, Shamus has a microphone there. I have microphone envy.
It's just off to the side, just a little
It
show.
looks nice though. It's a nice
Thanks.
mic. Yeah.
Thank
When
you.
you're in podcasting, you're like, you see other people's equipment, you're like, oh, I could have
I
that.
know. Yes,
Yeah.
terrible. You'll go
It's
down that rabbit hole
no,
all
it's
day
it's like
long.
buying a guitar and then your buddy's got a different amp and you want that amp, and blah, blah, blah.
It's true.
Hey, listen, today you and I are here. You're a GC, general contractor.
Yes.
I think we're going to have a great conversation. As you know, this audience here is all what I like to call forward-facing contractors, right? It's all people just like us. They're business owners, but they're running different sub-trades, as you would call them, right?
Yep.
So I like to say we operate from the GC on down, whether it's residential or commercial. But before we get into that, Shamus, because you're a GC and you want to talk to us today about strategic sustainability,
I
which is
know, mouthful.
it is a mouthful. We're going to get it today.
We will
Maybe,
get it.
let's do this. Everybody who's listening, please have a sip of coffee every time we flub up the word strategic sustainability. If you're listening after hours, you can swap out the coffee for whatever you like.
That's a great idea. Can we
Isn't
do
that
that too? Can we do this?
And it would be a Joe Rogan podcast.
Yeah.
We'd be smashed by the end of this, right?
Oh, for sure.
Let's get back to the seriousness. Mr. Shamus Dowler, who the heck are you? And how is it you come to be speaking to this group of forward-facing contractors all around the world?
Yes, so like you said, my name's Shamus. I am a GC. I also like to help other GCs that want to be in this, sustainable environment of building better,
Yeah.
building more mindful, and taking, the environment, the social aspect, all of that into consideration when we're trying to build a better product. Um, so yeah, like high level, yeah, sustainability in construction. Don't
Yeah.
get it confused with greenwashing. We're not about
You're
we're
not
not
about
about
greenwashing.
greenwash. We're not here to greenwash anyone. We're here to build better and teach how to build better.
Good. I love it. Let's get some context on this. How did you start? Like, did you just came out, you were born and you were a GC with that awesome beard? Or did you have to
Definitely. Hammer in hand.
hammer? But did you have to, like, how did you get to where we are today? Can you give us that?
So I grew up around construction. So my father, he was a framer, worked summers, in the same area that he worked in, worked at trust companies,
Oh,
you name it. I did it. Not fun. And it was always that push to like do a little bit better and make things a little bit more efficient from a young age, which always got me in a little bit of trouble because I was always trying to think of a better way to do things and asked probably way too many questions
too
for
many
the guys.
questions.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's always been my thing. I'll ask the questions, I'll go out there and find the answers. And it's kind of led to this, right? So,
Yeah.
you go to school and you kind of find your path and you look back, you're like, how did I get here? And yeah, it's
Yeah.
just little experiences along the way, and it's
Well,
fantastic.
I'm going to dig a little bit more into your GC, how I became a GC background. Then we'll get into the strategic sustainability side.
Yeah,
Oh,
it
we
was
almost had a
close.
sip of coffee there.
Yeah.
Can I tell you the thing I love most about being a framer?
What?
How clean I was. And everybody's going to go, what the heck are you talking about? But so I'm Pacific Northwest. So I'm framing outside, let's say I'm doing outside walls or something like that. If I'm holding up an outside wall and it's raining out, I just so much love the way the rain went in my right sleeve and came out my left leg.
It's fantastic.
Isn't it the
So
best?
true. Yeah.
So good, right? And you're
Yeah.
like, what am I doing here?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Constantly.
And constantly, you're like, I've got to be like sparkly clean because the
Yeah.
water is just flowing right through it into your
Right
boots.
through.
Oh,
Yeah.
right through. Yeah. Anyways, that's a joke. A thing I often remember. I worked with my uncle. I was actually on believe this, my crew or the crew I worked on was made up of a bunch of guys from Paraguay and Uruguay who were Mennonites who had escaped Germany and gone to Paraguay and Uruguay. So they all spoke German to me. I don't speak German. My uncle, who was partners with the German guy, speaks Italian. So I didn't know what they were talking about, but I got called a lot of things, and I think they spoke Low German. And I don't think I can share them on the show. It's the family show. But yeah, it was It was a lesson. It was a lesson. I'll tell you what, though, those guys had a work ethic that anybody would dream of having on your crew. They were ranchers from Uruguay.
Yeah.
And so when they came here, all they knew was how to work, and they worked hard.
And it was probably a fantastic product too at the end of the day.
Oh my, if I did something wrong, I mean, they're Germans, right? And a shout out to all you Germans there. It's just wrong. Go
Yeah.
fix it. And it's your fault. Go fix it again. I'm like, okay, sorry.
Yeah.
Anyhow, how did you become a GC though? Because you started as a framer, you went to school. Like, get us up there, and then let's get into the strategic sustainability side.
How many hours do we have on this podcast? So yeah, you know what? Working on that framing side in the summers, I thought I wanted to be a mechanical engineer, believe it or not. So I actually went to school for some aircraft structures. I was trying to get into some engineering programs, was on a wait list, and then decided civil engineering was going to be my thing. And, I went through that. And I've loved it ever since. I love being outside. I love nature. I love, connecting with people and clients and, the end users. And it's just fantastic. So I'm really happy that happened. That's for sure. But yeah, from there, I was working on, the engineering consulting side, building subdivisions. And, it's just, kind of snowballed from, watching guys build homes and condo buildings and high rises to, working on the developer side of things. And then, actually spending some time at McDonald's restaurants in their real estate development.
Oh, I was wondering, well, McDonald's. Okay.
Fantastic. I'd build the boxes, so I was the box guy in the back.
So, but you were building McDonald's restaurants like ground up?
Yeah, from right from site servicing to serving burgers. We would do new builds and renovations. Crazy program. Learned an insane amount of process and due diligence and
right.
Creating those long-term relationships with designers and architects and trades, and it really set the foundation for me to go out and start my own thing. Yeah.
Can I ask this? And you might not be able to share it, but I worked at McDonald's when I was a kid. I didn't do what you did. I was flipping burgers.
Yeah.
And just so everybody feels so comfortable today at lunch, we sweat on those burgers a lot. It's so hot in that kitchen. Nobody wants to hear that. It's so hot.
Yeah.
Crazy. But I was a kid. I remember I used to make $2.65 an hour. By the way, the decimal goes after the two.
Yeah.
$2 or 65 cents an hour. That was my wage. But does McDonald's run their construction division the way they run their food operations? Like, it's very systematized. It's very SOP. Tell us a little bit about that, if you can.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I can share a lot of that. Like I use it in my day to day. That's the processes and everything that we've set up on this side. It's how we find our sites. We use a lot of data. We're not sitting back and throwing a dart at a map and saying we're going to build there. We actually use a ton of data. I'm a huge nerd, by the way, but we use a lot of data the same way. So like the way the construction department was set up there is we'd have our core GCs. We would self-perform a good chunk of the build ourselves, partnering with the GC to actually carry through the work. So we would order the exterior package, the interior package, the kitchen equipment would all be done in-house, just so we'd have that repeatability. We held those contracts in-house, and then the GC was responsible for, the assembly of the build. Yeah. So it was a bit of a hybrid, like self-perform / GC concept. Tough for the GCs to really wrap their head around on the early stages, but we had great partners on the GC side of things, amazing trades, great suppliers. Like these things from ground break to serving burgers, we were at 14 weeks, which is crazy to think. You're putting up, a $6 or $7 million building, 6,000 square feet in 14 weeks. It's pretty wild. You got to get a lot of things aligned very early.
Yeah. I know this isn't our topic, but if somebody listening, right, and we've got lots of people listening who are on the commercial side, not to eliminate the rest of you guys, but how would I, if I said I really want to start getting some of these, I'll say McDonald's type contracts, McDonald's, Wendy's, Dunkin' Donuts, Tim Hortons, whatever it is. How do I break into that if I'm not one of your favorite GCs right now? or
I
subs
think,
or
yeah, I
subs?
think, like typically every year, like the bid list will get opened up to like one new guy. I think it's more on the willingness to learn. So a lot of the new GCs that we had, allowing them to come out onto some of the current builds just for them to see like how hectic it really is. And same with the trades too. Like we'd bring on new trades.
So let me ask that then,
Yeah.
because this is what I'm a sales guy. This is how I got into business, was the sales side. If I wasn't one of your favorite GCs or subs right now, would it be smart for me to contact you and say, hey, we're not on your bid list, but I'd like to be in the future. Can I come view the site? And what day are you there? So I can just stand behind you and watch for a few minutes. Like, how, I want to know how I get on that list.
That would be check number one on that checklist would
Okay,
be
good.
would be that conversation with,
Yeah.
obviously like the real estate side of things for sure. And then the construction managers and that sort of thing.
Yeah. Okay.
PMs, right? Like that's
I derailed us.
it's always that ask, right? Like you never really know until they ask, and it's all about education. So like if these guys are going to come in and they've got that willingness to learn and adapt their business to
Yeah.
like these GCs in this world, like it's like I don't know if I would want to be a GC on that side of things. It is pretty crazy. It's a crazy program every year.
Mm.
But they're set up, right? Like they know exactly how many builds they're going to get a year. They know exactly how many renovations they're going to get a year.
Yeah.
It's like that's your foundation. That's like your base as a GC and as a trade, knowing that you've got
Yeah.
guaranteed work every year. Doesn't matter if it's a slow economy or what,
Yeah.
you're always going to have
You're
that,
going to be busy.
always. Yeah.
For let me not derail you anymore, because we're here to actually talk about strategic sustainability. But I think we might have found a second invitation for you to come back and talk about what you've learned in that world, and you and I
Oh
can
yeah.
have a side conversation with this. For people who are more interested in how these restaurants get built, there's another episode we have with the gentleman. I'm going to get his last name wrong, and Anthony, I apologize. Anthony Amontegui. It's a Basque, Spanish last name. And
Yeah.
I should be able to pronounce it, but I've never been able to get it out of my mouth. Anyways, brilliant guy, excellent guest, just like you are.
Yeah.
Right. But he's a specialist in actually being the GC on that. Anyways, let's move away from that. And thank you for that little side conversation. Let's talk about strategic sustainability and
Yes.
your view of it. It's getting easier to say, by the way,
Yeah,
Shamus.
it
It's
does
getting
get easier
easier.
over time. Yeah.
What was
Watch
the
me screw it up
moment?
now.
It's okay. You're supposed to. You're like,
Yeah.
what was the moment that you sort of, stood up, stretched, and went, you know what? You know what we're missing? And then you came up with strategic sustainability. Do you remember that? Was there a moment, or was it a gradual thing? How did you get there?
I think it was the move, from McDonald's to starting, my own thing. And like I've grown up mostly in the commercial end of construction and development.
Mm.
There's been some residential high rises and that sort of thing, but those are all built to, a commercial spec anyway. But it was getting into the residential side of things, and just, and I don't want to piss anyone off here, but just the lack of care in people's homes. Like I was shocked.
Like from the builder side,
Yeah, from the builder side.
right?
Like you look at some of these homes that were built in the 90s, they're ready to come down right now. Like
Yeah,
I've got a
it's
couple renovations right now for houses that were built in the late 80s and 90s, and I hope these people aren't listening that I'm doing the renovations for. But like those houses were poorly built, and it's so unfortunate. Like you just, and I thought to myself, like myself, it's unfortunate that people are living in these spaces. We spend 90% of our time indoors, and a good chunk of that at home in our own space. And they're not designed and they're not built in a way to be healthy for us to be in all the time. Like you actually look at and I'll get into some of the nerdy stuff, but you look at the actual rates of asthma increases over the years.
mm,
Um, going to more of a drywall paint based, carpet, dust, all that sort of thing. Furnaces are super inefficient. We're burning air. Like it's not that great to breathe. And that's what's, caused a massive influx of asthma in us
wow.
humans, right? We're not meant to live in this, indoor space. It's only been a short period of time, really, when you look at the grand scheme of things of our evolution, that we
Yeah.
haven't lived in houses for very long, and our bodies aren't meant for that.
let's define strategic sustainability and then against the profit motive. I mean, everybody on the show is here to make money. We're here for
Yep.
profit. And so sometimes I guess chasing that profit means that we're finding the most efficient building products and the most efficient building systems, which could come across as cheaper or worse building. But we're trying to do our best to make a good product that people can afford to move into. So what is strategic sustainability so a builder or a subcontractor out there can understand it from your perspective?
Well, like sustainability is such a like a broad, industry, I guess, or broad term. It's loosely defined as allowing future generations to have what we have is basically the way I like to define it. But it's more than just it's more than just the environment. It's more than just the social side of things. Like you can be sustainable by using local products in a build, right?
Okay.
Not going out there and sourcing products in Europe and that carbon footprint of shipping something overseas to be placed in a home here really isn't the most environmentally friendly or even socially friendly thing when you look at where these products could be coming from. So like it ranges anywhere from like where that product's coming from to how healthy that product is. Like does it off gas, that sort of thing. And then you look at the whole environmental side of things, and we want to build spaces and build homes and buildings that are going to last 100 years. Like I want these buildings that I'm a part of to outlast me, my kids, grandkids, like everyone. I want those buildings to be standing for as long as possible. And I think I know we've gotten away from that in the last 50 years, where it's just been mass produce it, get it out, maximize the profit. And if it stands for 25, 30 years, then we've done our job.
Yeah.
And I think that's not, and that's not,
nobody
that's not
knows I was the
sustainable.
builder anyways, right?
Exactly. Like that is the definition of not being sustainable, because when you demo a house, what gets saved in that house? Nothing, really.
Yeah.
Maybe some cool fixtures, maybe a few things, maybe you're recycling, maybe the wood and that sort of thing. But we looked at everything. We looked at the furnace system, the HVAC system in the houses, mass timber. So if a house was ever torn down, like you've got these mass timber panels that could be, taken out and reused. Maybe it's used in another house, or maybe it's used in a cabin, or
Right.
that
They
sort
can
of
be
thing.
reused.
So yeah, exactly. So we want to look at systems that we can actually, if for some reason that house did not need to come down or that sort of thing, could we reuse it, and how difficult would it be to reuse that? And we've explored obviously a ton of things. Some good, some haven't worked out as planned, but that's the whole thing. You want to be innovative and be in a niche. You kind of need to expect some mistakes and some heartache sometimes.
Well, that's okay.
Yeah.
We all do. I mean, that's part of being a pioneer too. Like you're going to go out there, you're going to make some mistakes.
For sure.
What's the I don't want to get all business coachy here, but what's the consumer reaction to all this? So the question is, how do buyers respond? Like when somebody walks through the house, do they say, look, I really do want to buy this house versus the next one because it's built sustainably? Is that something people look for and something they react to?
I really think it depends on the region that people are in. I think it is regional, and we've definitely seen that. And we're starting to see more of it. So, Postmark has been around for 4 years now, 4.5 years. Time flies. It's crazy. At the start of it, people are just like, what are you doing? Like, get in, get out, make your profit. And
well, a lot of people listening are probably saying that, oh, this is a nice interview. These guys seem great. Let's listen. But they're like, yeah, get in, get out, make your profit. Nobody knows I was the builder. I don't put my plaque on the wall when we leave. By the time this third owner owns it, they don't even know who I am anymore.
Exactly. And that's fine. I think there's, there's nothing wrong with that. Where we want to be is we want to be in that niche. We're starting to see more people, ask for it.
Care about that.
Yeah. They're like, what is the carbon footprint? What are you doing as a company to, reduce your carbon footprint? Look, we're in the construction industry. We're, one of the worst polluters on the globe, which is unfortunate. And people that, want to argue against that, and, come at me, Twitter, LinkedIn, we can have this conversation, but we're the worst. Like our waste is just insane. So if we can cut the waste in half, we're doing something good.
Yeah.
But it's about educating. I find, educating the people and the people that are coming through the door. It is more expensive, for sure it is. But it's something that, you can be proud of, right? Like you're going to
Yeah,
be healthier in your home. Like, people are going to ask questions. It's a slow process, to kind of
it's
build that niche. But
yeah,
once you get there, like I would say it's more profitable than, your typical like cookie cutter mass
frame build.
produced
Yeah, or
house, right?
it's
So
there's a saying that I use in business coaching, and sometimes putting systems in place or processes in place, because this is this, I'm gonna have to look at my notes. The strategic sustainability side is a system. It's a way
yep,
of building. It's a mindset, right?
it is.
It's who you become by going through that exercise. It's how your company starts to act and react and think and push back or take advantage of different things around you. So sometimes people say, Dom, take an electrician for an example. I just had this conversation yesterday with an electrical company. They do residential and some light commercial stuff. And I said, well, we have to start counting the wire nuts that go into a new build. And we have to start counting how many linear feet of wire get used. Well, the question came back, why would we do that? Been around since the 80s. We're kind of making money. It seems like a lot of work to count the wire nuts. It seems like a lot of work to count how many feet of wire we use. Because it's who you become when you become a company that measures things. When you become a company that, for instance, remember my German framing crew that I was on?
Yep.
When they tell me you made a mistake, now we have to back frame it, which means you're going to be on back framing removal all alone to learn your mistake when you cut your overhangs. And it's who we become, because guess what mistake I didn't make anymore?
Exactly.
When I get left alone in the garage to scrape off the pins from the forms,
Yeah.
because I did something wrong on putting the forms in, and they're like, Dom, listen, that's not how it goes. So it's who you become. So I guess the point here is it's who you're becoming as a company that says strategic sustainability.
Drink.
Hang on, I swear it's water, or it might be. It's mostly water.
Mostly water.
There, I drank.
Nice.
But it's who you become as a company. And so today, maybe strategic sustainability is, oh, that's nice. But in the future, maybe people are saying, hey, where did you get your stone? Because I want local stone. Where did you get your paint? Because I want local paint. Where did you get your whatever? Because I want local whatever.
Oh, and like it goes all the way down to the furniture, right? Like we'd like to partner with local furniture makers. And obviously, guys making it here, it's going to cost you a little bit more, but there's a story behind it then.
Yeah.
Right. Like you can tell that story. You watch them build it or you help them design it, that sort of thing. But like on the, to go back to that, the budgeting and or cost of being sustainable in this market, it doesn't have to cost any money either. Like you can do it by design, right? And can I give a shout out to?
Yeah, absolutely.
So Holoblock Architecture, fantastic company. Same mindset, being mindful of where that house is,
Yeah.
the surroundings and that sort of thing. It's how you place the windows. It's how you open the windows and looking at, prevailing winds. And, if you open this window and you open that window, you've got cross breeze,
Yeah.
right? So that's being sustainable. So it doesn't have to cost you anything. It's just being more mindful of how the people in these spaces are interacting with that design, right? Like there's, instead of just saying, living room is always here, bedrooms are always here, bedroom windows are always like this. We don't have to think like that anymore. We're
We
far
can
beyond
rethink
that.
it. We
Yeah,
can rethink
exactly.
it. Can I ask you where you start to see the restrictions being burned into the system, as in the local permitting process says, you got to do it this way. And you're looking at that particular thing saying, that's an old rule that doesn't need to be in place anymore. Where are some of those blocks that you see?
Oh man. Again, how many hours do we
Do
have?
you know what, Shamus? As I asked you that question, I know there's people who are listening right now who are already yelling back at the
Yeah.
podcast. They're like, oh, I'll tell you where it's gone wrong.
Oh
Blah,
yeah.
blah, 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 blah. Because some of those things are just burned into the system. Can I tell you a quick story? Just as a
Absolutely.
weird example.
Yeah.
As people have heard here before, my family's Italian, and my dad came from the south of Italy, which is the region of Puglia, Pugila. There's a little town there called Alberobello. We call it Alberobello. And they have these buildings called trulli, Trulli. They're these round whitewashed buildings with these stone roofs. And I said to my dad, why do they make these round buildings when everybody else makes square buildings? He goes, oh, because they taxed you different if you had a building with corners.
Oh my goodness.
So what they started to do was say, hey, let's make buildings that don't have corners. There's no right angles. And you think, okay, well, that's such a cute example from Italy. We don't live in Italy. But then if you go to where my in-laws live in the mountains in a ski resort town, your home is considered, you get an occupancy permit when it's fully completed. So when you drive through the neighborhoods, everybody has a little piece of Tyvek sitting out, uncovered, because unless the home is fully sheathed, it's not considered finished, and you don't get taxed for living in a finished property. So we think about those things we just brought up is so crazy because we do find ways around those imposed rules by governments to maximize our own, our own lives. Yeah. So it's still happening. So now I'll go back to you. What are some antiquated rules that you think are holding back this movement of making things a little more sustainable?
I think there's a huge disconnect, in a lot of, cities and towns, between, commercial development and residential. It's unfortunate that those two groups really don't talk. Like I find the commercial side of things, while still behind, and we can do a lot better, is far beyond where the single family or residential side is on innovation and code and that sort of thing.
Really?
So a lot of the products that I use, because there's tracking on products on the commercial side of things, like, part of Well and Living Futures and that sort of thing, where you don't really necessarily have that on the residential. So when you're speccing these products from the commercial side into the residential side, while they are far superior than what we're seeing on the residential side, these municipalities just don't understand this. So like the additional hoops that you need to jump through for them to recognize what that product is, whether it's, additional engineering or, letters from the suppliers or that sort of thing, like mass timber and precast foundations for me right now. Man, I tell you, like the hoops that you got to jump through to build a better product is just, it's crazy. And it's policy put in place. And I just wish there was more. And I would love to. So any cities or towns out there that want to, talk to me about, code adoption and processes and that sort of thing, I'd love to talk to you. Because, there is a better way of doing things. And there's a lot of people out there that want to do things better, but there's just so much red tape that it's like guys will look at it and they're not, it's not worth it to them. Like why would you spend, an extra $10,000 on engineering or reviews and letters or that sort of thing when you can just use the product off the shelf at Home Depot, right?
Right. Yeah. Get in, get out.
Yeah.
And I'm part of that problem because I'm here to talk about profitability and streamlining systems. But the fact is systems always change. Building envelope engineering changes, foundation, changes, things change. Foundation engineering does change when there's new products introduced or environmental conditions are impacting things. We do see it, maybe not as often as we think. There's actually a lot of innovation that goes on in the construction industry.
Oh yeah, for sure there is.
And that's where some of the opportunities are.
Oh, tons of opportunity on that side of things. And you're starting to see that with like that next group of GCs and framers and electricians coming up through the industry. It's they're asking those questions. They're saying like, why do we do it this way? Why can't we do it this? And you're like, well, let's give it a shot. Let's see if it works, right? Like, and you don't want to be experimenting on someone's house or like the people, that's their biggest investment. You don't want to be making a mistake on someone's house, but there's ways to test something out before it goes into a build or a design.
Yeah, I think one of the I'm going to pose this and I'll ask you to come back to me and say, no, Don, you got it all wrong, or I'm going down the right path. But right now I know that certain kinds of mortgages where I live can have a rebate attached to them if you increase the R rating, if you change your windows. So this is buying an existing building and upgrading it so that it's more heat efficient, so it's more energy efficient. So perhaps a renovator listening, you only have to do something small to contribute to sustainability. You don't have to do everything.
Exactly.
Right. Again, I'm making a statement. You can come back at me with it. But if you are a renovator and you know the government programs, to go to your potential client and say, hey, not only can we upgrade your windows, but the government has a program right now where they're going to kick you back this, where they're going to give you this allowance, where there's going to be a tax offset or redemption based on increasing the, the values, the insulated values of your home. Is that a step towards what we're talking about here?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay,
And
good.
again,
So I'm getting it then. Yeah.
You are.
Okay.
So there'll be a test at the end.
There was drink.
Yeah, exactly.
I swear it's water.
That's amazing. But you're right. Like it's small things. And obviously, that starts at, the policy level and everything else. And, it's doing a bit of digging. It's going and doing your homework and finding, those rebates and that sort of thing. I know there's solar ones out there. There's there's a bunch of stuff out there that people can go get. It just takes time, obviously, right? And time is money in this industry. So if you're not set up to do that right off the bat, going through that process halfway through a renovation could kill your schedule, which then, kills the profitability and everything in that project. So it's definitely something that needs to happen upfront in your process, something that, you can lean on through the marketing side of things and the sales pitch and have that option for clients. Some clients love it. Some clients are like, nah, it's okay. I don't need to go through that process. Right. And it's like, it's like Passive House or Lead or, Well, and all of those great programs. They're amazing, but they cost money.
And you have, so they exist. You just have to care enough to use them. And I suppose at some point, it's just a question you can ask. If you're a renovation contractor, if you're a new GC build, just say, is sustainability important to you? It's just one question. But I would also think that asking the question made me seem like that much more intelligent of a GC. And I'm not knocking anybody who doesn't ask the question. I just mean that the client's going to go, it's interesting that he or she asked me that. Nobody else asked that. If he asks me that, what else does he know that the other people don't know? And so I would now I just raise myself to a different level. Whether they say we care about it or not, I need to understand what they care about so I can help them buy from me and I can help them, build what they want.
For sure. I know, when I go in and meet with a new client, my sales pitch is typically to ask them a question. Again, I'm a questioner. It gets me in trouble a lot, but I want to know what's important to them. Right. Yeah. And then, you can see, through their answers and that sort of thing. And, I use social media a lot to find out how people live, and I can help them design better. We can find local products that way. But asking that question, what is important to you? And then, you go down that list of that checklist, with your clients and you ask them, like you said, is sustainability. And then they'll typically ask, what is sustainability? Right. And so you can kind of go down that path with them, upgrading windows or, local products, that sort of thing. And for the most part, I would say every client, looks at it and picks at least one thing off of that, whether it's like a local supplier or, energy efficiency or that sort of thing. I would say every client right now, is being mindful of that. And that's, it's super exciting to see.
Yeah.
Because 5 years ago, you weren't. I can guarantee you 5 years ago, no one paid attention to it.
Well, and so that's actually a great point. In my mind, that's exactly where I was going, is some people listening to this would go, strategic sustainability, whatever. Just these guys are entertaining me right now. I'll do this until I'm bored. Yeah. But I'll bet you if we dial this conversation forward 5 years and then 10 years and then 15 years, this will be a bigger thing than it is now. So older GCs are going to, it's the way the pendulum swings.
Yeah.
Right. It just is. I've had another guest on here. He was actually on Shark Tank or Dragon's Den. And I apologize to him right now. I've forgotten his name, but he recycles old houses.
Oh, amazing.
He's figured out how to dismantle a home and really recycle the 2x4s, which right now you see the price of 2x4s.
Yeah.
Right. So when he first started, it was feasible, but it was more of a dream and more of his passion. Now he makes, it's enough of a thing, and he's figured out the systems for dismantling homes a panel at a time, calling one elevation a panel, where it's more efficient for him to do it. But he's figured out a system. So he can, if somebody's going to, rip down and an old house and build a new one, he can go in there and to those people say, well, not only will I demolish your home, but we can recoup, we can reclaim, we can salvage this lumber. Would you like to use it in the new build? And like, a 2x4 is a 2x4. Never going to see it. But it's nice to know that we rebuilt our home based on the old home. And what a great story, right?
Oh, amazing. Absolutely amazing. Yeah, I love that stuff. Like there's a lot of cool little niche businesses out there, doing that sort of thing. And one of the other ones I'll give a shout out here is Ecoplast. They're building, exterior walls and floor and roof structures out of recycled bottles.
Really?
Yeah, it's amazing. Like,
look where Paralam has gone. When we first saw Paralam, we thought, oh my God, strips of wood. You guys are so cheap. Okay, give it a try. And now they're building it out of the same fleece that you're wearing.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Like, it's so cool to see, like, these extremely smart people,
innovations.
Like bringing this to the construction world and seeing that, and the product that you get out of Ecoplast, recycling those plastic bottles. Now you're getting rebates on your R value, because their R value is through the roof.
It has to be. Have you ever walked on a deck made of that plastic stuff in the summer? It's so hot.
Oh yeah.
But it's beautiful, and you get consistency and color consistency over time. But yeah, I'd imagine that stuff would retain heat really well, which lend itself to keeping the home hot.
It's a fantastic product. And like, you pair that with mass timber and that sort of thing, you're getting really close to passive house requirements.
You're not going to go on to straw bale homes, are you now?
No, sorry.
That's such a prairies thing. Such a
it's
middle
interesting
America thing. It is. You need a little more space.
Yes.
Need a little more space.
It's interesting. I've been in a few. It's quite the experience. Great houses, but again, being mindful, right? Like to that client, that's important to them, and that's great.
Absolutely. There are maybe 3 people listening to this podcast who are now pumping their fist going, he just said straw bale construction. I thought I was the only one. Or,
we got to pull that quote out. Yeah.
Then there's dome homes. There's all these things where people are really trying to make inroads into some sort of sustainability. And it's through all that testing that we're going to come to a new place. It just is how things evolve.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, absolutely. Like you can take any industry, any business, and where it started to where it is today is probably unrecognizable.
It should evolve.
Yeah.
It should.
Yeah, please.
Shamus, this has been great. And I really appreciate your insight in this. Fantastic. If somebody wants to find out more about you and how you do what you do and strategic sustainability, good thing we're not drinking while we do this. I'd be smashed by now. Strategic
should I drink on that one too? I made you do this.
Yeah. Is yours water?
Mine's water. I'm sorry.
Jeez, no, that's we're so modern.
If
somebody does want to talk to you about this, Shamus, how do we find you in this big wide world?
Oh man. LinkedIn is probably one of the best right now, LinkedIn or Twitter. Can you flash my handle up on the screen, or do I need to tell you?
You know what? Spell your name, because it's a different spelling of Shamus than I've seen before.
Yeah, it's SHAMUS.
So last name?
Dowler, DOWLER.
Perfect.
You'll find it.
Yeah,
promise you.
You've got a serious beard. So anybody who's looking for it, look for a guy who's got a serious beard. Look at it. Oh,
isn't it awesome?
You got a lift on that thing. Yeah. So, and then does your company have a website as well?
We do. Yes. It is postmarkgroup.com.
Yeah. Postmark Group. That's how I found you.
Yeah.
Listen, I appreciate having you on here. I think we might have you come back. I'd love to talk to you more and learn from a commercial side. Lots of people here want to get that, I want to start building the Dunkin' Donuts. I want to start building Tim's. I want to start building Jack in the Box, whatever that is, or banks, whatever, those are a different type of build. So maybe having you back in the future to talk about that type of approach, how do we get in with that, would be valuable. And then I think I might, based on what you said here, I might try to find an Ecoplast expert or somebody who could speak about Ecoplast and its uses here, so that we just use that as an education platform for both residential and commercial.
Yeah, I will. I'll make that introduction for you.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Mr. Dowler, thank you so much for being here. We'll have you back on again.
I can't wait.
Have a great day.
All right, see ya.
Bye.